Good evening, everyone. I do hope everyone is doing well tonight. Welcome to this evening's episode of Sounds of the Diaspora, Artist to Artist, a conversation with DION Parson. Please remember that all episodes are recorded, therefore you can listen back to each episode at your leisure over and over and again and share with your friends. I'm very excited tonight to bring to you guys a very dear friend of mine, a drummer, a musician, an educator, a composer, someone that I've known for many years and respect in the music business. Let's welcome Mr. OBED CALVAIRE.
What's happening, Dion? Great to be here tonight.
Oh man, it's a pleasure to have you here, Obed. How you doing?
Life is good. I'm better than all right. I can't complain at all.
That's good. That's good, man. That's good. Well, welcome to Sounds of the Diaspora, bro. I know we've been talking about getting together and talking and discussing different things, and I appreciate you agreeing to jump on this show with your busy and hectic schedule. So thank you very much for joining me.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. Thank you for asking.
Right. So we have a listening audience and a viewing audience on YouTube, and we're across the nation. We're over in Europe, and I would like for you to tell our audience a little about Obed CALVAIRE. Let them know who you are.
Okay. From Miami. My mom and dad are from Island, right south of Miami, next to Cuba, called Haiti, next to Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
They moved. Actually, my mom, come to find out, actually not too long ago, as you get older, certain conversations you have with your parents that you never really was concerned to have, or you didn't have when you were younger. And come to find out, my mom actually took a boat to come while she was pregnant with me to come.
No kidding.
Yeah, and it was a rough ride. Come to find out, so that's a little history that I found out 6 months ago.
Okay, so you made that journey on a boat.
On a boat, yep. So that was kind of interesting to find out. So born and raised in Miami, I started playing music at a very early age. My dad's a singer.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually a well-known Haitian gospel singer, and I just would go to his rehearsals. And the first thing I would do is run to the drums, and hopefully the drummer wasn't there, so I get my 5 minutes in before he showed up, and then they kick me off. Right. So that pretty much happened till one day I actually got pretty good, and the drummer didn't show up, and I actually started playing in the rehearsal, and they allowed me to play. But my musical background started really early, because of my father. Going to rehearsals and growing up in church, and I knew at an early age I wanted to be a musician. I remember the day I was on the couch, using the cushion as toms.
Right.
Using the side of the couch as my ride, or just trying to create a drum set environment so I could actually, do my thing.
Right.
And I remember walking or running to my mom, super excited, saying, "Mom, I know what I want to be. I want to be a musician." She's like, "Oh no, you don't." She's like, "Nah, that ain't for you. There are many other fields that you can, doctor, lawyer. You from the Caribbean, what they want for us. Either an engineer, doctor, a lawyer." Like, "Nah, Mom, I don't think that's for me." Fast forward, they finally gave in because they realized how passionate I was.
Right.
And I was able to go to a performing arts high school in Florida, called New World School of Arts, and it all started there. And then it just, like a lot of guys, when I was a freshman in high school, guys like Mike Rodriguez, E.J. Strickland, Marcus Strickland, Dion Tucker, Seneca Black, Robert Rodriguez, like a lot of these guys who went to New York, like that just inspired me. I'm like, okay, I guess that's the thing to do. Everyone here is going to New York. I might as well go to New York. At the time, I didn't really know, or didn't understand how big and how much New York was the mecca for jazz. You know,
Right.
it's jazz music in general.
Mm-hmm.
So once I made that decision, then that was my goal. And then New York was a very, very special and unique situation because we got guest artists such as every year they bring at least 2 guest artists. So we got guest artists like Steve Teray, who you played with,
Mm-hmm.
Bob Mitzer, Bobby Watson, Elaine Elias, Winton.
Okay.
So we had a pile of guest artists that kind of helped me pave a way. Once I got to New York, I actually had some contacts.
That's great.
So all I
Yeah.
had to do was just pick up the phone and be like, guys, I'm in New York. If you guys ever want to play, or I couldn't play worth a dime, but I was I was excited.
You were in New York. You were in New York.
I was in New York. You know what I mean? That's all I mattered. I was in New York.
Yeah, yeah. And New York, the thing about New York is once you get there, you'll find your niche no matter what level you're on. And the key is to just get out there and play because what I found when I got to New York, whether you could play or not, we all feel that when we got to New York, man, we were scuffling, we were trying to figure it out. But cats was watching you. They were really watching you, and they were like, let's see where this person is going to be in a year. And a year later, they'll come back and check you out.
Right.
And because they're really following who's going to be the next cat. That's the thing. That's the thing I remember, man. I remember playing the Vanguard with Terrence Blanchard, and Stanley Cowell came. And he's like, man, you sound good, man. I'm going to come check you out in a year. And a year later, he found me and he's like, yeah, you sound better than last year.
Right.
So that's the thing about New York, and
hopefully you get that opportunity, because sometimes that first impression either makes you or breaks you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true.
I mean?
Well, you were fortunate, man, because I remember when you came to New York, you had a good foundation, and again, you mentioned like Mike Rodriguez and EJ Strickland and those guys. You had a good foundation, and you came to town with a network of cats, and that's important also to have that. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And so once you got to New York, of course, you went to Manhattan School of Music, and you did 2 degrees there, correct?
Yeah, I got my undergrad and my master's degree, bachelor's and master's, and that was a really, really, man, I will never forget those days, because I remember sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night, every night. Like, that was my thing. Like, I didn't need any more sleep because I was so concerned with trying to perfect the craft, and
Right.
This instrument, as you know, is a beast, so, at the time the dorms were on 101st and Broadway, and then you could walk to Cleopatra's Needles. I don't remember that club?
Yep, 95th and Broadway.
Yes, man. So I remember going to the jam sessions and hearing cats like Ali, Rodney Green. I mean, a list of dudes, and I remember just being like, oh, man. Like, literally after the jam session, I would go
back to your practice room.
So I'm like, man, I sound like trash compared to these guys, man.
Yeah, but that's the good thing about New York, because New York will keep you on your toes. It's like,
facts.
You come out of a session and you think about it. You say, man, I got to go to another session. I got to go play someone. You got to figure it out. Yeah. And like you say, you don't sleep. That's part of it. But at that age, at that time, that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I had no real responsibilities aside from getting decent grades in school.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was there for, and I took advantage of it. I really spent some time in the woodshed just to make sure the next time someone hears you, they're like, okay, you were better than last time. That was a compliment. Not like you were killing. You're not gonna get that. You know what? You sound better than last time. That's all I need.
Yeah, man. It's great, man. It's great to hear those stories, because sometimes you feel like you're the only person going through that.
Oh no.
And years later, when you start to talk, because a lot of cats don't say anything when they going through that. Cats are so focused, they're like, I gotta get it. And when you get older and you can breathe, then you start having these conversations like, wow, I wasn't the only person that went through that. But that's part of the process.
It is.
That's part of the process.
I embraced it. I loved it. I loved every second of it. I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. Oh man, the journey, people say is like, the journey is what makes the man, what makes the musician. And that's the thing. And I've seen you play in so many different situations, and you're one of the most versatile drummers that I know. And, I know a lot of drummers, but I think, applause to you, man. I'm serious. You're one of the most versatile drummers I know. And I think a lot of it has to do with your musical upbringing coming from the Caribbean. The Afro-Caribbean diaspora is one of the, few, chartered territories, and a lot of people don't really know what happens in the Caribbean. It's so different than what's happening in the U.S. And I think that's part of your versatility, man. You want to talk a little bit about that and the different genres of music that you deal with?
So I would love to. So I didn't really aside from listening to the Spanish station, Sol 95. I still remember that Spanish station from Miami.
95.
Sol 95. Aside from listening to that, when I grew up, I didn't really, aside from playing compa and rhythms, it's a little bit of rhythms from gaga, which is another rhythm that we play in Haiti. You have compa, gaga. My parents kept me away from a lot of the folkloric music because of the content.
Right.
You know what I mean? My mom and dad are extremely religious, so they didn't want me listening to folkloric music. Now, once I got older and was able to have a Walkman or a CD player where they couldn't hear what I was listening to,
right.
Once I figured out, man, the beauty in the rhythms, that I just fell in love with a lot of like rhythms such as Yamvalu, Congo, man, a ton of them. So I really started to dive in. Now, mind you, I'm probably at this point, I'm 15, 16, 17 years old. So I have a really good understanding, aside from the compa stuff, which we played in church. I got a good understanding of eighth notes. Now, what do I mean by that? Eighth notes. Like Brazilians have a specific type of eighth note that they play. Cubans have a specific eighth note that they play.
Right.
Virgin Islands, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Haiti, they all have a certain eighth notes that they play that expands and compresses depending on which style you're playing, right? So when I would listen to, like, for example, Afro-Cuban music, and like that, once I started playing it, and with the help of people like Ignacio, Daphnis, Ernesto Simpson, I tried to study with a lot of, or Ignacio specifically because he lived in Miami at that time.
Right.
So I remember seeing him with Gonzalo.
The Gonzalo Rubalcaba, yeah.
The trio with Jeff Chambers. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about years ago. And I just remember I'm like, man, this cat is so smooth, and his eighth notes are a little different than some of the rhythms are similar. It's like if you take Afro-Cuban 6/8 and if you take Yamvalu, the only difference is one eighth note in that bell pattern.
Right.
So in Haiti, it will be and Afro-Cuban is
that's where the double is, yeah.
The double is. So it's right. Aside from that, everything else is pretty much brothers. They're related, brothers and sisters.
Right.
You see what I mean? So I could understand that aspect of it, but man, when he started going playing one or a song, I was like, whoa, what is going on? I need to get with that.
Yeah. The one is tricky because the way the clave lays, but then ding king ding, you got to lay it right on top of it, yeah. Right. And the sango is the same thing, man. I learned sango in Cuba, being down there with the shell choir with Steve Torre, hanging out with Andy Gonzalez. That's how I got my sango lesson.
Wow. Yeah. Man, you were in Cuba, you didn't hook up with Changuito?
Man, bro, it was so many things going on. I saw him at the festival, but I didn't get a chance to hang. But Andy was, he would just call me like 7 a.m. Let's go to breakfast, and then we would just go meet all the elders. We would just go to every house after house after house.
You in the right, Andy, Mr. Gonzalez was. I mean, he's you in the right hands.
Yep.
You say that because a bass player had the biggest impact on me. And I know you know this guy very, very well, John Benitez.
Oh, yeah, I know John Benitez very well. Yeah, I remember when he came to town, yeah.
Man, he had the biggest impact on me because once again, at Manhattan School of Music. We'll go back to that because we lost track of. We turned left a little bit when you asked me about my relations, in Haiti, my musical relationship, and how I came to play so many different styles. But John, I would go hear John with Yosvani Terry, and it would alternate between Daphnis and Antonio on drums.
Oh yeah.
So and Ernesto sometimes would sit in, but man, I would like after combo rehearsal with John, he would take me to go to Jazz Gallery every Thursday at the old gallery.
Yeah.
I think Hudson and Spring or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was another eye opener. And he would sing these rhythms to me. He's like, no, this is how you sing. And man, John, if you don't know, if no one knows John, man, check him out. He's the baddest, one of the baddest bass players who as well can do all types of styles at a high level. And John just, man, he took me under his wing and showed me all these rhythms. And it's like, no, that's not how you do it. That's not how the feel isn't right, So he kind of helped me get through that. But Andy, going back to Andy, legend.
Yeah, that's how I was with Andy, man. Is like the first time I played with Andy was at the Berlin Jazz Festival with the Shell Choir, and we didn't have a rehearsal. Steve Teray got stuck in Texas, and we waited at the rehearsal spot. We got on the plane, and the road manager gave me a stack of CDs and was like, man, this is a song list that Steve wants you to learn. And I sat on the flight for 8 hours going to Europe, transcribing all the songs. And we landed in Berlin. We had a sound check and the gig. And when we finished, Andy turned to Steve and said, man, I don't know where you found this cat from. Keep him. And I replaced Negro in the group.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Negro just left the group. So man, but that's how like being in New York, that's how intense it is, because like you talking about no sleep, man. I didn't sleep that night. We landed. I was so nervous, man, but I played the gig and it worked out. And that I see that same commitment in you, man. And I just love talking to cats from the Caribbean because I know where we came from and I know what our challenges have been, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted you on the show, because I know for folks to hear, for people that know me and to hear, the similar story from somebody else, it says a lot. It says a lot, man. And you have played with everyone from Seal to Eddie Pomeri to Vanessa Williams, Village Vanguard Orchestra, man. You're doing it, bro. You're really doing it. You're doing it, man.
I love music, man. I genuinely appreciate all styles of music, and I think it's specifically because of how I was raised and the music that surrounded me. I was always curious about when something felt good. I'm like, okay, what makes this feel good? And I can always tell if a drummer is where he's from based on his feel.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there are certain rhythms I won't even like music from like some of the what's that style from Morocco? Ginawa, bro. I can't touch it. It's a completely different ball game,
Yeah, certain styles you leave it alone. You were mentioning John Benitez, man. I remember hearing John Benitez play with Ralph Peterson.
Whew.
That was a combination. That was a man. Rest in peace, Ralph. But that was a combination that when I heard them play together, I was like, man, they work so well together, like personality wise, they like so different energy cats, but when they played together, man, it was so beautiful. And Ralph was one of those type of people that Ralph was the first drummer I met when I moved to the United States.
Man, I must have been intimidating.
And I left St. Thomas 18 years old to go to Rutgers. I stopped off in New York for a couple of days, and I begged my cousin to take me to the Blue Note. All I heard was the Blue Note Jazz Club, and she took me there, and Stanley Turntine was playing. He was performing that night, Ralph Peterson on drums. And I sat right next to the drums, and I just stared in awe at Ralph. And when we finished, as soon as the gig was finished, it was the last set, and I just got up and said, "Hi, my name is DION Parson. I'm a drummer. I'm going to Rutgers University." He looked at me, he's like, "No shit, I just graduated from Rutgers."
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And that's how we hooked up, man. And we became best friends after that, because that group OTB, you heard of that group, Out of the Blue?
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, that was a group out in the late 80s, early 90s, Out of the Blue. The Blue Note put out an all-star group. Mike Mossman, Kenny Garrett, Ralph Bowen, David Eubanks on bass, Harry Pickens on piano, Ralph Peterson on drums. You gotta look them up, man.
I gotta look them up.
That was a killing group, OTB. And so they used to rehearse at Rutgers. So I got to know Ralph really well. Ralph and I was roommates for a minute in New York as well. But talking about the diaspora, Ralph used to sit down and tell me how to connect the dots with the swing and the American music and the stuff from the Caribbean, because he grew up in Atlantic City playing on the boardwalk with a lot of the Cuban and Latin bands.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He played a hell of a timbali, so that was a conversation we used to have. But yeah, Ralph encouraged me, you know, like he really encouraged me. He would always say, man, no matter what you do, don't lose your Caribbean heritage. He's like, D, that's the one thing that's going to be your signature. And I didn't know what he was talking about back then, because all I wanted to do was swing. But I know what he's talking about now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of guys, like for example, Roy Haynes has Caribbean back. Hutch has Caribbean background. You know, like a lot of guys, Wynton Kelly, Caribbean back. Like a lot of guys come from that world, the diaspora. That, you know, like, and it was Monty Alexander, one of the most swinging cats.
Monty, Paul West, another one. You know, Happy David Williams.
Oh yeah.
A lot of guys. Well, you know, Etienne Charles.
Yeah, my God.
This is so many. Ruben Rogers, Ron Blake, Victor. I mean, it's a lot of younger cats, and we work, you know, in a nice circle together. But there's a lot of older cats too, that a lot of people that didn't really know that because they didn't represent themselves that way. But I got to know AT. He filled me in from about a lot of cats from the Caribbean. And there was a lot of information there from him. But it's a lot of cats from the Afro-Caribbean diaspora doing it right now. And it's great, man. But I know you're not only a drummer, you're a composer as well, and you've been writing and doing your thing.
I'm trying. That's another battle. But you know,
that's another battle.
That's another battle. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. You know.
We're gonna play one of your songs, but before we do, I want to ask you, man, that Waters of March arrangement that you did. That's how did you come up with that one?
You know what? I wrote that right after Cuba.
No kidding.
I went to Cuba and that changed my life. And I got to hook up with Changuito. Like I went to his crib and we literally spent 2.5. It was supposed to be an hour lesson now. 2.5 hours later, we're still there.
Wow.
You know? Man, he was so welcoming and so open to showing me how to orchestrate. Because once again, it's not how you're playing something, but the orchestration.
The orchestration,
plays a huge role on how something feels. And Changuito was so specific, and I'm talking about specific as in like ghost notes. If you didn't play the ghost notes right, he's like, that's not it. And then once you did it right, he's like, I see. So whenever I got that I see, I was like, okay, I'm good. So, you know, Waters of March was inspired by Changui. You know, notice everything is on the upbeats.
Yeah.
You know, so regular rhythm is be do be do be do 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 do. Right, so I just switch everything on the upbeats. So that's basically all that is. It's, you know, just everything on the upbeat, and then me incorporating all the stuff that I learned from my experience at Cuba. You know, so.
That's great, man. You know, I think drummers are some of the best arrangers that I've heard because of the rhythmical component.
Right.
You know, and it makes sense. But I heard that arrangement. I heard it on the radio coming from a gig one night, and I was like, man, who's that? And when they told me who it was, I was like, I went and I had to get that recorded, man. And I think the first time I saw you after that, I was like, bro, how did you come up with that arrangement? Because this is killer, man. But again, hey, man, I know you got so much to say musically, and I would like to take this time, man. Can we play one of your songs so our audience can hear your penmanship? Is that okay with you?
Totally fine. Which one are you playing?
Let's check out God's Gift.
That was my first one.
Your first song?
That was my first song. And Sean was fortunate. I mean, he was, you know, so I guess open to performing it. You know, he actually was one of the first people to encourage me to keep writing after I wrote that one, because I didn't think it was good enough for the record. It's like, man, this is beautiful. So, and I mean, you get to hear, but thank you, Sean, for allowing me to put it on your record.
Well, let's check it out. God's Gift.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. That's your first song you ever wrote.
Yeah.
That's killer, man. Let me ask you this, man, and I'm serious. Your first song you ever wrote is in 5/4.
I mean, rhythm first, baby. Rhythm first.
After that, man, it's like you don't even say I'm gonna stay in the straight lane. I'm gonna start here. You don't start outside the box, bro.
You know what? I would, to be honest with you, when I wrote that, I wasn't even thinking of a time signature. I just sat on a piano. It was just messing around, and then this, like usually when I write, I sing,
Mhm.
and I was messing around with something like with the black keys because most of that ding ding boom, just like
Yeah.
basically based almost not quite, but based on pentatonic.
Mhm.
Um, and I just started singing this line. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This, and then once I played the bass line, boom, bing, bing, boom, bing, boom, bing, bing. Once I was able to play the bass line with my left hand, and then I started humming melodies, and that's how the melody came about. So,
Right.
because my piano playing is not that strong, where I could just sit there and play, counterpoints and play lines at the bass line. It's not happening. But I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
play some chord changes. I can play a little bit of melody here. But for the most part, if I come up with a bass line, I'm playing a bass line and then singing on top of that, whatever
Oh,
catches
yeah.
me, then
Yeah.
I'll write it. I'll write
I
it
mean,
out.
if you could hear it, that's the main thing. If you could play a part and sing on top of it, what I like about it too, it has this operatic, operatic feel. Boom, beep, beep, boom, bing, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. Like we're bringing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, bro, if that's your first composition, man, I can't wait to hear the rest because that's powerful.
Thank you, brother. Thank
That's
you.
powerful, man. That's powerful. And like I said, man, drummers. I mean, it's drummers never cease to amaze me, man. What they come up with, you have all of this dexterity playing, and then if you could sit down and be creative melodically, you come up with some other stuff. I'm sitting there thinking the first song he wrote is in 5/4. Check that out.
Yeah. That's
That's
funny. I
great.
didn't really think of it that way, to be honest with you. Like I said, I wouldn't think about time signature. It's what I felt at the moment.
Yeah,
And then once you write it down, like, oh, okay, this is in 5. Okay, great,
yeah.
cool. Let's keep it
Yeah, but
going.
it's powerful. And then, so how are you like just brought it to Sean? I know you was playing with him, and you just brought it to him, and he liked it.
Yeah, because we were at that stage where cats were bringing different tunes. On were bringing tunes.
Right.
Tia was in the band. She brought it tunes. Who else? Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just bringing in tunes, and I'm like, why not? If they like it, they like it. If they
Right.
don't, they don't. I'll just keep at it. Keep trying until I'm able to write something that cats at least want to play. So it ended up happening where they actually enjoyed it. So
That's great, man. Well,
yeah.
congratulations on that, man. I know we have some more music that we're gonna listen to, but I wanna just stay right a little bit.
Mhm.
You mentioned some of your influences and being in Cuba and studying with Shanguito and different folks that have influenced you, man. I want to just talk briefly about being a teacher, being an educator, and how important that is developing the technical component, but also being true to the music, because that's something that I find with a lot of young cats. They all jumping out there looking for the newest gimmick, and when young cats come and talk to me, the first they ask me is like, how can I become famous? And I'm like, that's like question number 9,000. Like let's get our priorities in order. So let's talk about education and where does that fit in? Because I know you're on the road a lot, but I know you teach also.
I do. So cat people reach out. I'm not on social media, so it's hard to get a hold of me unless you go to my website
Mhm.
and you know seek me. So a lot of students come, or I get some requests on my website to take lessons, and I'm also faculty at New School and NY, but I'm barely I I have to decline students because I travel so much and
Right.
we required a certain amount of lessons, which I know for sure I just don't have the time to make up, and I don't think it's fair to the student as well.
Exactly.
But when I do take students, the most important thing for me is there's got to be like a true passion, because I'm not gonna waste my time. Like I'm not gonna sit there and hear you try to impress me. That's not what this is. It's not what this is about. You know, like I want someone. I like students who actually genuinely love music. Now, what that entails is the hunger for wanting to be better. Half of the gigs that will allow you to make a living, it ain't even about chops.
Say that again, man. Can you repeat that for our listeners?
I'm not even gonna say half, 90% of them. It ain't about chops. It's about how do you make whatever musical situation you're in, how do you make that feel good?
How do you make that feel good? Yeah.
That's all it is. And if you can make whatever situation you're in feel good, you will work for the rest of your life. You see what I mean? So if once I get students who embrace that, then man, we'll have a blast. In the meantime, yeah, we can work on technique. Technique is being able to have a sound is part of having chops. It's part of technique. People they have this misconception that chops is about playing fast. No, there's actually technique to having a beautiful sound.
Yeah.
How do you get a tone out the instrument without having to bang the instrument or being present without, or playing super soft with so much intensity?
There you go.
So these are the things that I like to pass along to people who are interested in taking that receiving that information. But for the most part, like I try to filter out, lessons that I do give, and it becomes quite obvious.
Yeah.
Who's really into it and who's not.
Who's not? Yeah. Well, one of the things I like that you said is that you filter out, and you have the general educators, the person that go and teach middle school band every day and high school band, but then you have for folks like you and I that's out here doing what we do. We learn from I call them practitioners, people that are in the field doing it on a regular basis and know what it takes to make a living performing, and it's the exchange. All of the teachers I had express how great it was for me to be their student, and that's what I'm hearing from you. It's an exchange. You don't want to teach somebody just to sit up and be like, hey man, go practice this John Chapin exercise or this Will Coxon and come back and play for me next week. It's an exchange, because if that student brings something to the table, then you're learning something as well.
Of course.
And I find that to be really true, especially in the position you're in. That's why I wanted to ask you that question, because it's just really hard for cats that's performing on a higher level to teach. But I know a lot of cats do teach, and everybody has their thing and they become more selective. The busier they get, the more selective they become. And
I really actually love teaching. I really do. Yeah. Because it's like you said, it's if you have the right students, it is a two-way street.
Yeah.
They'll play something like, hold on, stop. What's that you just played?
Exactly.
Oh, put that one in the archives.
Oh man, I remember sitting with a cat one day, man. I bugged this guy for a lesson, man, maybe about 2 years. And he finally said, okay, man, I'm in town, come by the crib. And he was like, bring your CDs. So I went by and I was like, yeah, man. And I'm all set. I'm sitting with the sticks. He's like, nah, man, put on your CD. And I put, he said, show me what you're playing. So the lesson ended up me playing all of this Caribbean stuff. But then he turned around after about 2 hours. We spent like the whole day together, man, and he showed me so much stuff, man. But it started with, I think he went and checked out where I was, and then decided, hey, man, this cat got something, and it became an exchange. And he didn't charge me, because the part of it was like, well, I'm not cheap, you're gonna have to pay me this. And at the end of the day, he's like, man, thank you for just hanging with me. I learned a lot, and I hope you did too. And that was the exchange.
Man, funny, the older I get, the more I've run into that situation.
Yeah,
cats like Dennis Chambers, Vinny, Daphnis, like these guys would come out of their way to give me a lesson and not charge me a dime.
It makes and Daphnis.
The list is longer than that. So if I forget someone, it's not but love.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I mean, the names you mentioned, man, like Dennis Chambers. I mean, you talk about Funk Master, man. Pocket, like he'll sit you in a pocket all night and not.
See, here's what where people forget. You know, as much chops as Dennis has, one of the top, 5 chops of all time in terms of getting around the instrument, right?
Pocket.
Where is he making his bread? Playing with Santana, playing with, P-Funk, playing like he's making his real dough just
pocket all night.
You know what I mean? He's holding it down.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you can have all this facility, but man, like if you really wanna eat,
you gotta make the music feel good and make the cats on stage feel good. That's what it comes down to. Yeah. Well, bro, man, I like your philosophies, man. It's really great. It's really great the way you're presenting who you are as a musician, man. You're covering all the wonderful things, man, and you have a lot going on. So you're playing with so many great orchestras, ensembles, and I would like to play, if you're okay with that, man. I would love to feature. Is it 111 or 111?
It doesn't matter. However way you hear it, man. I have a thing with numbers, so whatever you could. Let's call it 111.
111. Okay, great. My birthday is 611, so anything 11, I'm into it. So, so this was recorded with SF Jazz, right?
Right.
Okay, great, man. Let's listen to 111, and then we'll come back and hear some more from Mr. Obed.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
111.
Yeah.
111. So that's another powerful one.
Oh man, thank you.
And that was live, right? With SF
That
Jazz?
was live. Yeah, most of those compositions, or when I was part of the band, they were recorded live. We really went to the studio.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the so that's 3468. How are you counting that?
I'm thinking of it three.
You're thinking of three? Okay. That's what I thought, yeah.
3 1 1 1. You know. I have this thing, man. There was a point. It's till today. Like I'm always seeing numbers in triples, like 1 1 1, 5 5 5, 2 2
Mhm.
3. But specifically during that period when I was writing this, I would always see 1 1 1. But I have a thing with numbers anyway. A weird thing, the fascination with numbers. So yeah, that was inspired by my whole number thing.
That's great, man. That's great. I'm actually really enjoying that. This is a lot of moving parts. You have that bass line, kind of like that Latin ostinato bass line that Andy Gonzalez does all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It gives you the illusion that it's somewhere else, like it's a different time, but it's once the drums
Yes.
come in, it kind of helps.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
helps
That's
bring it
great,
out.
man. I'm hearing all of the compositional tools that you're using, and it's great, man. It's great.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So as a composer, I can tell that you draw your ideas from different places, like most composers do,
Yeah.
and put them together in such a rich fashion.
Mhm.
And that's really nice. Did you study composition, or this is just something that you've been doing?
I did. At my high school music, you had. I mean, I had getting a master's degree. That was, definitely that was part of the degree process.
Right, right, right,
Just learning theory and harmony, and like certain combos I had to bring in tunes for. So I did some a little bit of studying, and I did some outside of studying outside of school. Linking up with John Clayton, Maria
right. Okay,
Schneider, um,
nice.
an amazing composition teacher. I've been studying actually for the past uh, year now, on and off. Is a guy that taught Terrence, Roger Dickerson.
Okay,
And that's been extremely, extremely inspiring, and it's opening up a whole other avenue for me. So it's a never ending process for me. Like I
definitely.
hear something, I'm like, man, how do these guys hear certain things, or how do you get stuck out of hearing a certain type of way? And studying with him has definitely been helpful.
That's great. Like what you mentioned is an ongoing process. So you're constantly thinking about what's next for for me, or how can I improve on this. And as a evolving musician, you have your instrument, you can always be a performer, but then you have the compositional side, because at some point you want to be documented, you want to make sure that you have yourself represented, because as a drummer, we're the ultimate sideman. We're
Mhm.
backing up so many people, and that's our first means. We go on the road, and we're on the road just playing with everyone, but it becomes a point where you want to present yourself and document yourself. So that's great that you're going on that path.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm very excited for that, man. So I wanted to ask you, being from the Caribbean and having the Caribbean background and playing in the States, and you're playing with some great musicians, man. How do you connect? Well, you said part of it, your main job is to make the music feel good, but how do you connect all of that and from gig to gig? How do you differentiate what's needed and make the gig sound authentic?
Authentic.
What's your process of that?
Right. Well, that's a great question, because sometimes, because I'm from of my background, my musical background,
Hmm.
it doesn't necessarily fit the style of music that I'm performing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
Like if I'm playing with Kurt Rosenwinkel, it's a different thing.
Hmm.
Like, and once in a while I could add. Kurt's a bad example because I have a little more freedom there. For example, let's take Seal, right?
Okay.
When you're playing something straight down the middle, down a grid, me playing a field that's inspired by Haitian drumming wouldn't necessarily match.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't coincide with the style of music there. So I'm very, very careful when I choose to tap into that. Because the one thing I don't want to be like, oh yeah, he's a drummer that's from Haiti trying to play funk,
Right. Yeah.
trying to play pop, trying, like that. No, if I'm taking a gig, I want to be authentic to that particular style of music.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been able to assess when not to actually tap into that world.
Right.
So it could be a little tricky, but for the most part, I've been in situations where I'm allowed to tap. Like Skane tells me this all the time. He's like, man, play me, like play me some of that Haitian shit. He's like, play some of that Haitian shit, because I'll take a solo. He's like, man, bring it back home. It's to him that's foreign. I grew up playing these types of rhythms.
Right.
So to him, it's like, man, that's some new. I'm like, man, it's just been. First of all, there's nothing new under the sun. It's all been done before.
Yeah, but the combination is you mentioned Skane. I was actually getting to that. So you're the drummer in the Jazz Lincoln Center Orchestra,
Mhm.
and that's one of the premier jazz drum seats in the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to get into how you got the gig. I really more or less want to, from a musical standpoint. I mean, how do you approach that gig? Because I've heard you play with an orchestra many times, and it's so complimentary what's happening, man. How do you approach that gig musically?
Um, Same as I would approach any other gig.
Yeah.
Funny, before I got that gig, I took 6 months off to study.
Okay.
6 months off. I didn't get on a plane. Now I would play in the city, but I would
Right.
not get on a plane because there were certain things that were building up. The bucket list was getting way too long, and I was working more and more. I'm like, man, I'm never gonna get through this list if I continue at this path. So I have to actually sacrifice going on the road and studying with people like uh, Joe Farnsworth,
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Cobb, may he rest in peace, the great legendary Jimmy Cobb, Andrew Surreal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a long list. Kenny Wash. I studied with a lot of cats.
Wash, yeah.
So the reason for that was because I needed to get my left hand, my bebop. That there's a language that cats like Jeff Hamilton, Lewis Nash, uh, the list is long.
Yeah. The big band cats,
Not
cats
just not just the big band cats, but like
that's
cats
stylistically, yeah.
it was a thing that when I hear certain guys' left hands, I'm like, that's not what my left hand sounds like. That's
Right.
that thing that I recognize. You know what I mean? Something's not right. Like
Right.
something with this rhythm is quite different. What do I have to do to make it feel good?
Mm-hmm.
So when I would go see K Wash, when I would go see Mr. Cobb, when I would go see all these cats who had that vocabulary, it just, you know, I'm like, okay, I got to get this done. Another
Mm-hmm.
amazing teacher who opened up the doors for me is Randy Gillespie
Okay.
from Michigan. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you know him. Amazing drummer. So like studying with these guys for 6 months, um, it just allowed me. It's funny how that worked out because I had just decided. So I took 6 months sabbatical, studied, did my research, listened to records, try to really hone in on my weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided to leave the collective in October that fall. And in December, Skane calls me to do some gigs randomly.
Mm-hmm.
Like he didn't know I left the collective. He just happened to be stuck in a situation where he needed a drummer who's available at the. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'm not doing anything. I'll come and do it.
Right.
Now, good thing about that particular situation is you have to know the history.
You got
It
yeah.
ain't just one type of swing and then you're cool. Like you
Right.
have to know the history of the music.
Yeah.
So going back to Baby Dot, going back to Sick Cat, going back to Hetcher Fenderson, going back to Basie, going back to Duke, going back, like you're going back,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of opened me up. And it was a beautiful situation because that's what I wanted to do anyway. So what better place, what better situation to be in
And with him doing it, yeah,
You know,
that's great. Yeah.
so that that it's been an amazing experience, and I'm still learning. And I have some doing this Max Roach thing in January or February that I'm going to start writing for, and I'm actually excited to do that. So tap into some Mr. Roach, and that was another genius. Like he basically from bird to M boom.
Bird to
And
M boom.
anything in between.
Yeah, that's his range. Yep.
Like what? Come on, So it's. I'm really looking forward to that project and diving in. And I'm gonna actually have fun writing some arrangements for that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great, man. Great. Well, I look forward to hearing that, man. Hopefully they will stream that gig so I can check it out from St. Thomas.
I'm sure they will. I think.
I'm not sure I'm gonna be in the studio at that time, but hopefully they'll stream that gig, man. But bro, you're doing it, and you're doing it with all the right folks. And we have another one of your compositions. If you don't mind, I would love to play 150 million gold francs. That's another one. That's another live one, also, right?
That's another live one.
All right, let's hit this one, man. And for our audience, Obed Calvaire is not only a drummer, he is an amazing composer. And this is his composition entitled 150 Gold Francs. Enjoy. Yes, sir. You took it home.
I sure did. I sure did.
Oh man, I can hear that. I can hear the celebration in
Yeah,
everything. Now let our audience know what type of rhythm. What's that called?
yeah.
Say it again.
Yeah. It's kind of
Got
hard
it.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the R. It's RAA, but R's are pronounced like yeah. It's like something you do with your tongue. That
Okay.
yeah, it's
Okay.
only from that one particular is from Haiti.
Haiti. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Guadeloupe, like all the Lesser Antilles that speak patois. They
Patois.
use
Yeah.
that.
The
Yeah,
French. This French patois speaking islands. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's great, man. So this is live with the collective, but I know you're working on your thing,
Hmm.
and so let's tell us what's going on with you and your project.
So I'm actually coming out with a record April 2024
Okay.
called titled 150 million Go francs. Is based on I'm not sure if people know about the history of Haiti. In 1804, Haiti gained its independence, but later in 1865, the French came back with squatter ships, um, basically saying, "Give us 150 million gold francs, or we come in and destroy the country." Now,
Mhm.
mind you, no other country has ever had to pay reparation for
Mhm.
gaining its independence, winning it.
Right.
So Haiti's it's had a very interesting and unique history, and they're still paying for that today.
Right.
So my record is basically um, talks about what Haiti's going through, the suffering, and hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Obviously I'm not sure if you're familiar with the news, but things are not going too well over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Uh,
it's not even just aside from the political break, just the natural disasters. I mean, the country can't catch a break.
mhm. It's a lot happening there. Yeah.
A lot happening. But politically, it doesn't help. So
Mhm.
look out for that. Like maybe you have me back right before the record comes out. We could dive into that. Give you
And
some.
that's April. Was the date of April?
Well, it's April 2024. We
Oh,
haven't really set.
2024.
Yeah,
Okay.
2024. We haven't really set a specific date yet.
Mhm.
It'll be titled 150 Million Gold Francs, and it'll be a completely different version than you heard now. Much more improved, in my
this
humble opinion.
this version how shall I put it, a well-made statement. If so
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to hear what comes after that, because it was very powerful. And coming from the Caribbean, I know we have celebratory music, and we have expressing music
Yeah,
that we use to express ourselves, and music that we use for different things. And I know you're doing your part, and you present and represent your Caribbean background, Afro-Caribbean diaspora background very well, and I know you're going to continue to do that. So, man, continue success to you, man. Continue writing, continue playing your ass off. Continue doing what you're doing, and I'm happy that you were able to find the time to come on the show and share with our audience all the wonderful things you're doing. And we hope to have you back soon. And much success to you, brother. And between God's gift, 111, and 150 million gold francs, I know you will be dealing.
oh man, appreciate you, man.
I know you
Appreciate
will be dealing, man. So, any last words for our audience before we sign off?
Man. It was an honor to be on with you. Thank you for thinking of me, and great success to you as well. And man, much blessings.
Thank you, Obed Calvaire, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Obed Calvaire, drummer, educator, composer. Man, he's doing it all, man. So thanks for thanks for being on the show and sharing your musical journey with us, man. All the best, bro.
Likewise, brother. Much love. Take care.
All right, take care to you. Take care to you. And thank you to our audience for joining us for our episode tonight of Sounds of the Diaspora, Artist to Artist, conversation with DION Parson. Please join us next week as we bring to you the one and only Mr. Steve Torre. That's next week, November 14th. Please join us as we bring to you the one and only Mr. Steve Torre. I've had the pleasure of working with him for many, many years, and I've recorded with him. I've toured the world with him. And if you ever check out Saturday Night Live, he's a trombone player on Saturday Night Live, but he's also been the #1 trombone player for Downbeat Magazine and miscellaneous musician, multi-musician playing the conch shell. So please join us next week as we bring to you the one and only Mr. Steve Torre. Take care and God bless.